ये एक मंजिल है तो रास्ते भी होंगे और मेंटर भी जो मुश्किलों को आसान बना दे। नतीजे संयोग नहीं होते, दूसरों से बेहतर स्कोर होते हैं। GS Score, an institute for civil services.
Good career is a process, and mentoring at GS Score is driven by primarily two objectives. One is empowerment and another is excellence. This is what we are known for.
कामयाबी की राह पर 1000 से भी ज्यादा निशान। GS Score।
Hello everybody, this is Sidak Singh. I secured rank 157 in CSE 2024. A brief introduction from my side. I am from Fagwada, which is in district Kapurthala of Punjab. With regard to my academic journey, I did my graduation from Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar in BA Honours Political Science. Coming to my UPSC journey, this was my 6th attempt, the last attempt, and I have written mains 5 times and this was my 3rd interview. Unfortunately, I was not able to secure a place in the final merit list last year because I missed the cutoff by 9 marks. And this year, with some extra effort put in and luck being on my side, fortunately I secured a place in the finalist. One of the factors that helped me to get on the other side of the line are my score in the GS4 or ethics paper, because this year my marks in GS4 increased from 99 to 121. So I'll be sharing my approach to the GS4 paper today. I'll divide my approach in 4 to 5 points. The first point is internalization of the syllabus of ethics. I think it is very important to by heart remember the syllabus of ethics. When I say the syllabus, I do not just mean the major points of the syllabus like ethics and human interface, attitude, aptitude, emotional intelligence, but I also mean the subtopics. For example, when we talk about topic number 1, ethics and human interface, the subtopics like essence, determinants and consequences of ethics, ethics in private and public relations, human values, etc., all should be remembered. One of the problems that many aspirants often feel on reading the question of the test series or say in the actual examination is that they are unable to map the question to a specific topic in the syllabus. The reason is they are unable to map that question to the topic in the syllabus. For example, there was a question in this year's mains, just and unjust are contextual, followed by a couple of lines. Now, if the aspirant is not able to map this question to the topic of dimensions of ethics, under which we study absolute and relative ethics, then writing a good answer within a limited time period covering all the dimensions becomes a bit difficult. However, if the aspirant is able to understand that okay, this topic is from dimensions of ethics, then a good answer with good value addition component which is already present in the notes can be written. The second thing that I did was that I went through the previous year questions of ethics multiple times. My suggestion would be to go through the previous year questions of the last 7 years, that is from 2018 to 2024. The reason why this is important is, number one, when we go through the previous year questions, we understand that there are certain themes or topics which are getting asked by the UPSC repeatedly. For example, if we talk about ethics in international relations, then this question or a question from this topic has been asked consecutively in the last 7 years. Similarly, if we talk about civil servant with a positive attitude, in 6 out of the last 7 years a question has been asked from this topic. Similarly, we talk about the role of technology or the ethical concerns associated with the use of technology. 6 out of the last 7 years a question features from this topic. I prepared a list of around 10 topics which I felt UPSC was asking questions repeatedly from. The others being probity and integrity, laws, rules, regulations, and conscience as a source of ethical guidance. The others being corporate governance, emotional intelligence, attitude versus aptitude. The second reason why the previous year questions are important is we understand what the ideal approach for studying ethics should be. For example, if we go through the previous year questions, I felt that post 2021, the questions which were getting asked by UPSC, they became much more analytical, requiring deeper understanding of the concepts of ethics. For example, a lot of questions are now getting asked which involve interplay of two different topics. For example, interplay of attitude with aptitude, interplay of laws, rules, regulations versus the conscience. I think this was one of the questions which was asked this year as well. and then a question involving interface of rights and duties. The third thing which I felt is important is going through the topper copies. When we go through the topper copies, we understand how effective introductions are written and impactful conclusions are made. Besides this, I also went through the topper copies to understand how value addition component is integrated in the answers. For example, when I saw the copies of Shruti Sharma ma'am, I saw how she made effective use of multiple examples in her answers. Similarly, Animesh Pradhan sir made effective use of quotations when it comes to writing effective introductions, be it in section A or section B. The fourth component is note making. I think good notes are very important to write effective answers for ethics. And when it comes to note making, I think once we have followed the first 3 points in the right manner, that is internalization of the syllabus, going through the previous year questions and going through the topper copies, the notes that are then made are very exam centric and the effort is directed in the right direction, because by now we have delineated the scope of our study. It's just the other thing that is important is good short notes. I made micro notes which were of around 20 pages, and in those 20 pages I covered important introductions and conclusions of around 20 themes which I felt are very important for the purpose of examination. Besides this, I wrote important quotations on certain important values. Other than this, I made a list of important examples which could be used in the answers, a few templates about which I will discuss shortly, and important points of certain topics which I felt should be written in the examination or which I felt that I could forget at a later time. Coming to the last point, it is the writing practice, revision and enrichment. I think when it comes to the GS4 paper, having understanding of the basic concepts and being able to write good answers are two different things. Hence, answer writing becomes very important. In this attempt, I wrote around 4 to 5 full-length tests, which helped me to improve my answer writing skill. Besides this, it also made sure that my speed in while writing the answers of GS4 also improves, because GS4 is a lengthy paper, so enough answer writing practice is very important. Besides this, on reading the model answers of the tests which I written, our content can be enriched, because we'll come across certain good quotations, important points or examples which can then be added to our notes. Now coming to the templates, this year I made a few templates. The utility of templates I feel is twofold. Firstly, they help generate more points. Secondly, they help save time. One of the templates that I made covered the philosophers and their philosophies. It included the religious philosophies, the philosophies of Gautam Buddha, which covered his 8 teachings, the philosophy of Hinduism, the philosophy of Jainism, right knowledge, faith, conduct, the philosophy of Anekantvad, the philosophy of non-violence, similarly the philosophy of Sikhism, brotherhood, empathy, service or seva, and tolerance. It also included the Gandhian philosophies, and then I made a mnemonic, JULD VLCC, JULD VLCC. From J it was justice, the philosophy of Rawls. For U it was the philosophy of utilitarianism by Bentham. Then Locke's theory of right, and from D it was Kant's categorical de-imperative, Thomas Aquinas's philosophy of double effect, and then it was virtue ethics by Socrates, Plato, laws and conscience, and common good. Now if I were to give an example how this template can be used, this year there was a question on human greed, in which human greed was linked to environment damage and destruction. Now, in this question, a way of introducing the answer could be the use of Hindu philosophy, that is Prakriti Rakshati Rakshata, meaning nature protects when she is protected. So this could be the use of Hindu philosophy to introduce the answer. Similarly, coming to the non-core part of the question, which is greed. The next thing that needs to be done is to address the causes of greed. Here we can draw a hub and spoke diagram with the causes of greed written in the center and a few arrows pointing out, mentioning the causes of greed. For example, the role of parenting, immediate gratification of wants, increase of consumerism within the society, the decline of religious values. For example, Jainism talks about non-possessiveness. And moving to the consequences of environmental destruction, which we study in the GS3 portion, the points will remain the same. Now then, coming to the way forward, here we will use various philosophies. We will start the way forward by mentioning the role of parents, schools and society, but we will integrate these points with various philosophies. For example, we will talk about the philosophy of Buddha, golden mean, striking a golden mean between consumerism, and frugality. Similarly, we will talk about the principle of justice, the principle of intergenerational equity. We will link or we will bring in Locke's concept of right as well, the right to clean environment, as was stated by the Supreme Court in Subhash Kumar case. Similarly, we will also talk about Kant's categorical imperative, making sure that our means are right towards the path of development. We can also talk about common good so as to make sure that the path of sustainable development is effective and leads to holistic development. Moving to the conclusion, we can conclude by quoting William Ruckelshaus, who said that nature provides free lunch provided we control our appetite. The other template that I prepared was with regard to the consequences of having ethics in public administration. And for this, I prepared another mnemonic, E3 Credible WPT. E3 stands for efficiency, effectiveness, and excellence. Credible stands for credibility, and WPT stands for improved work culture, increased profitability. T stands for attraction and retention of talent and building of trust. Now, there are multiple questions which are asked pertaining to the values that a civil servant should follow. For example, why integrity should be followed, or why probity should be followed, or what is the importance of empathy and compassion. Similarly, we can use all these points, effectiveness, economy, excellence, credibility, work culture, along with the examples. For example, we can quote the examples of the civil servants like E. Sridharan, or of organizations like ISRO to build a good answer. Another template that I prepared was pertaining to the change in behavior. Change in behavior is an important theme which is often asked in both Section A as well as in the case studies. So I prepared a list of around 12 factors which are important for changing the behavior, like role of parents, role of educational institutions, role of society, then role of media, especially social media influencers, and then role of leaders. A few factors related to the capability, for example, role of training, on-job training, Mission Karam Yogi, and increasing the ethical awareness among the employees. Then I wrote a few points regarding to circumstances, for example, improving the circumstances pertaining to the judicial delays, or addressing the issue of nexus, as was pointed out by Vora Committee, the politician criminal bureaucratic nexus, and bringing a change in the society. For example, decreasing the increasing consumerism, or the efforts which are presently leading to environmental degradation, etc. Now, coming to case studies, my way of introducing the case studies was similar to that of the questions in Section A. That is, usually I started with quotes. For example, say if there is a case study on corporate governance, I will start with the quotation of Henry Ford, in which he said that a business that makes nothing but money is a poor business. Similarly, I can recall that this year there was a case study which was pertaining to mistrust between the farmers and the district administration, as there was shortage of water scarcity, there was shortage of water, and the district administration has, I think, set certain limit on farmers when it comes to extraction of the groundwater. And they felt that the district administration is treating the farmers unfairly as compared to the industrialists. So in this question, the central theme was on mistrust. And in my notes, I had a few quotations on the role of trust. So I quoted Kofi Annan, as he said that trust is the foundation of governance. Without trust, there is no legitimacy. Most of the case studies, they ask for options and then merits and demerits. Now, the approach that I followed was that I used to give 3 options, 2 extreme options and 1 golden mean. And while writing the merits and demerits, I made sure that I used ethical keywords, the keywords of ethics, along with the names of the stakeholders. For example, if we were to continue with the same example of mistrust between the farmers and administration, one of the points that I'll write would be to continue with the present steps. Now, what would be the merits of this? The merit would be it would ensure sustainable use of water. Now here, sustainable is a keyword of ethics. Second point that I will write would be that it will ensure intergenerational equity. So here I have brought another stakeholder in, that is the future generations. Similarly, if I were to write the demerits, then one of the demerits would be enhanced mistrust between the district administration and the farmers. So mistrust here is a value, a negative value, and I've mentioned the stakeholders, district administration and the farmers. Similarly, another point that could be mentioned here is increased antagonism, the conflict of interest between the farmers and the other thing which is often asked in the case studies is the course of action. I used to divide the course of action into 2 parts. The first is the short-term solution and the second is the long-term solution. The short-term solution is generally case study specific, and in the long-term solution, futuristic solutions can be given. If we continue with the example of the case study which we were just discussing, in this case, as long-term solution, we can mention different points. For example, the one of the points that we can mention is revival of the old water harvesting mechanisms. The second point that we can mention is making water harvesting compulsory for the industrialists. Another point could be awareness generation with regard to effective and efficient use of water. Another point that we can mention is using the concept of attitude change, operant conditioning, that is rewarding the farmers and the industrialists who make effective use of water. In the conclusion, we will mention how our course of action can help improve things. For example, in the case study which we just discussed, we can mention that our course of action could help in sustainable use of water. It would bridge the trust deficit between the farmers and the district administration, and it will also decrease the animosity or conflict of interest between the farmers and the industrialists. So this is all with regard to my approach to GS4 paper. I hope this would help. Thank you.